Welcome back to View from the West podcast. The second half, here we go, ready to get going. And Mitch, we're kicking it off the season. We're kicking off this second half with a special guest, a big special guest. I'd like to welcome into the View from the West podcast, Edgy Tim. I'll speak on behalf of Mitch. We've been following your work for a long time. And, we heard you even give us a shout out, I think, last year on your podcast. We really appreciate it. So thanks for taking some time and being here.
You guys do great work. And, again, I learned a long time ago that, yeah, God knows I've tried, but I can't cover the entire state myself. So, sometimes you have to rely on other sources. And then the work that you guys have done has been really good. So much appreciated from my end for sure. But glad to be here. Just like you guys, we're under 30 days getting ready for kickoff. And I got notes, I've got things everywhere here. So just starting to get to the nitty gritty, but no, thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, great. It's funny you bring up that, as hard as you try, it's impossible to cover the entire state. I'll backtrack about 10 years ago. And, in some weird way, you were actually kind of an inspiration for, a motivator for what we're doing here, what we're doing on this podcast. And I will say maybe not so flattering as inspiring, because I used to listen to your podcast and think, man, I wish you would talk more about Sterling, or I wish you would talk about Morrison, or I wish you would talk
a lot.
And it would drive me nuts. And so eventually that was kind of my spark to say, well, wait a minute. I could do it. I could talk about.
Yeah.
So no, all joking aside, I've always, followed your work and followed your coverage. And I think in the last few years, especially with the Third and Lang podcast, where you guys really focus on the small schools and you really get into the nitty gritty of those schools, that, that work is being done. You guys are finding the, all the corners of the state, all the big schools, small schools, everywhere in between.
I appreciate that. And that was something a couple of years ago I set out because I caught a lot of grief about not a lot of small school coverage. And, I tried to explain to people for a long time that, look, I don't want to overlook or gloss over small school football because, number one, I know how important it is to people. It's just as important as every other level of football in the state of Illinois. I know that firsthand. I mean, I've been all over the state for almost 30 years, so I get it. But I also didn't want to half-ass it. I don't like half-assing things. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to dig into it. And when we continue to expand, went from 5 classes to 6 classes to 8 classes. Yes, I'm that old, as you can tell. There had to be a cut line. There was just no way I could continue to, as the schools mounted and things continue to build up. Oh, and by the way, guys, girl dads and all you girl dads and young, I had a family then too, a very young family, doing mine on dial-up, I'll add.
Yeah.
So there had to be a cut line. And it was an area that I always said I wanted to get back to and try to find a way to do it. And I mean, if you know Matt Lang, he's unique. He's a character. Him and I get along great. And just thought it would work. And we really enjoyed doing it. And as you guys know, the feedback from the coach has been phenomenal. It's, they really have embraced us, and we're going to continue to do it because, number one, we have fun doing it. Number two, if someone can learn something off of it and it brings more exposure to small school football, which I think it has. I know there's some bigger school football people that kind of follow it more now than I think they did before. Then that's great. That was the whole reason for doing it. So thank you. I appreciate hearing that.
Yeah. Let's kind of get into, who is Edgy Tim? What is Edgy Tim? Where did I've always wondered where the name come from.
Oh yeah, I know. I get that all the time. So we'll go through it. Okay. You guys obviously watch the state football finals, right? Dave Bernhard, the voice of IHSA.
Yep.
You can blame Dave Bernhard for giving me that name many, many years ago out in the Joliet area where I live and still live. There was it was a little unique for its time. It was a community TV call-in sports show, which you didn't see too many on TV. They were always radio, but it was called the Sports Zone, and it was great. And they just kicked ass on high school football coverage. I mean, they covered games. They had a live talk call-in show. And I would call in, and this was when I was kind of doing my stuff and still a big fan of high school football. So I would call in and contribute. And one night I was on the phone and he said, you sound just kind of edgy tonight. And then the next night pulled up the graphic, it said Edgy Tim, and I just kind of took it and ran with it. And I've been stuck with it for almost 30 years now. So that's where
Lo-
the name came from.
Love it.
Started the website. It was a yellow background with blue letters. It was the ugliest HOL homepage website you've ever seen. The first year I had 357 visitors. I think I was like 270 myself. Again, dial up is as bad as you could imagine. That's how bad it was. I just had a feeling, I don't know what you call it, an inspiration or a vision or something, that people needed to have more outlets for high school sports, for covering high school sports, for talking about high school sports, especially football. Illinois, we hear about basketball all the time. Oh, it's a basketball state. It's a great basketball state. I'm like, well, yeah, it is, but you know what? It's pretty good football here too. And it just kind of grew from that. I mean, high school, played in high school, didn't play in college, went to the Harvard of the Midwest, Southern Illinois.
My alma mater. My alma mater, by the way.
Go
So,
Dogs. Hang on,
yep.
hold on. I got something here for you.
Okay. All right. Edgy
Hang
Tim
on.
digging into the basement archives here. What do we got? Oh man, that's legit. That's a legit Valley SAU jersey there.
Go Dogs or go home, babe. But you know, so I did radio and TV when I was at SIU, like everyone else probably that was at
I,
SIU.
I was gonna say we were probably walking the same halls.
Yep. So I did some high school football there, and it just never, the fever of high school football never really left, I guess is the best way to say it. Did some of that, got involved with more the recruiting, scouting aspect of it, had a couple of friends that were a bit older that were college coaches, and one guy was running a service at that time, like it's been out of business for 20 years, but said, hey, go watch this kid or go watch that kid and let me know what you think. So I would write up a little, you know, like literally handwritten, and I remember faxing him, like an actual fax, to send him my notes. And it just kind of grew from there, and just started bit by bit and piece by piece, piecing it together. And as I said, this will be my 29th season, and it's been a wild trip.
Yeah. Well, Mitch, fire away. What do you got? What do you got for Edgy Tim?
Well, I think you touched on it briefly when you said that you used to do this on dial-up. I'm curious from your perspective, and certainly we're talking on a podcast, which wasn't all that popular even a few years ago. But in your view, how is the landscape changed?
Wow.
Social media, all that, in terms of how you not only cover the game but how you report the game.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I mean, in so many different ways it's changed. I mean, from, as you guys know, from the coverage standpoint, from video, I mean, you know, it was a dream to be able to have video on a website when I started. I mean, it was like, come on. And you see what happens now, and then from the recruiting evaluation side with Huddle, and you know, I mean, I used to have, my wife can tell you, I still have some containers in here of VHS videos from all across the state that I would get sent to have to sit here and watch off a VCR, and I'd have the coach's clicker as well, just trying to watch, you know, video. So we went from that to Huddle, and it's been tremendous. In some ways, it's made it easier. In some ways, I mean, it's been a constant learning for me. I mean, you know, yeah, I'm old as dirt and everything else. I've been doing it forever. But I mean, I really couldn't. Oh, I still don't think I can take a picture, but I attempt to take decent pictures these days. You know, I ran a little bit of camera, obviously, when I was at SIU, but didn't do much of it. Now I'm running cameras all the time. So I had, like everyone else, I had to learn a lot on the fly, and there was a lot of technology thrown at you at once, and just to keep up. And Twitter, I haven't even gotten into that ridiculous fear and nightmare that it's become, but it's also been a huge bonus. And guys, just think about scores, getting scores from across the state. Where would we be without Twitter now compared to where we were before?
Mitch has become our Twitter guru. If I'm out covering a game on a Friday night, he's usually, you know, sitting at home and watching. That's another thing, is live streaming. You know, Mitch can watch a couple games without even leaving his house, and to be able to tweet out scores constantly. It's been a huge advancement. Now, Tim, I won't make you do it right now, but at some point you need to dig through that box of VHS tapes, and if there's one labeled M. Stormer, Mustangs quarterback, 2006, we're gonna need to find that tape. So
I will, just for you guys, I will go through and see if I can pull some of it out. You'd be shocked. I've actually found a couple, and the kids I still know, I still stay in touch with.
yeah,
I send them back the physical VHS. They're like, "Oh my God, where did you find this?" It's like, telling you, still got some of this stuff, but yeah, there's no doubt, guys. It's been a trip. There's been a lot of changes. It continues to change constantly. Some good ways, as I mentioned, some bad ways. I mean, you guys are involved in the business and the media side, and what a train wreck that's become. I mean, we're losing people constantly, and that's not fun. You make friends with these people, and they have families, and you're seeing where this media landscape is going. It's not good these days. So it's
yeah.
good and bad.
In a weird way, in less than whatever, 3 or 4 years now that we've been doing this podcast, I didn't really consider it when we started, but now it's like when you look at it, especially in our Quad Cities media market, I mean, the sports coverage is getting, it's dwindling only because there's lack of staff. The staff
Right.
there still loves it and they still care about it, but they just can't be everywhere anymore. And I think I never considered it when we started the podcast, but we're kind of now filling a little bit of that void of that coverage that people are
You're
looking to. And that's great. I love that. And that makes me feel good. But man, it's sad too that, like you said, there's newspaper reporters, there's radio stations that they can't support a staff anymore. And it's crazy. And that's in the high school feels it the most, those high school coverage, and the small schools that, are left on the fringes. But
the crazy part about it, and you guys can attest to this as well, the passion hasn't changed.
no,
It hasn't
No.
changed. It's gotten bigger.
yeah.
To me, it's grown. I see it growing all the time. And, I know, God forbid, we'll never know what the streaming numbers are from IHSA TV. We'll never get those, but
No.
I would love to see how their numbers have grown along since they started streaming live games. I guarantee you it's increased. And, so the passion doesn't go, the market hasn't changed. There's still a demand for it, yet media companies continue to slash and hack and cut back on it, despite the fact that it's popular and people still want to. And God, don't even get me started. The whole TV end of it. I did a great show, an Emmy award-winning show on NBC Chicago.
Yep.
And that got canceled, and but again, it had nothing to do with the show. It had everything to do with the landscape of the business. So it's been, as someone that covers it and has friends that cover this, it's been frustrating to watch, but you just kind of put your head down and keep going, and you hope you work your way through it, and things change and things get better. That's what you hope for.
Yeah, I mean, I guess somewhere along the way, I hope that people recognize good coverage. And I guess when I say people, I mean management of, newspapers or local radio. I know we're lucky in this area that, we have WRMJ out in Aledo, and Jim Taylor and his son now, Ty, do a fantastic job. And that's kind of one where they've not only survived it, but they've kind of thrived. And I mean, Jim Taylor took ownership, took over like that kind of coverage, and John Hoshide along with him 20 plus years ago, and really kind of made it their mantra to be local and be at those games. And it's been remarkable, so they do a great job. And I know there's I hate to, leave out some other ones too. I know that there's other local areas that still get some radio coverage and, that newspaper aspect, but you hope that it gets recognized.
Great. They're doing great.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you got, Mitch?
I was going to say, just to maybe turn it more positively in terms of how things have changed.
See, there I go negative again.
No, it's just let's think of it as the other side of the coin. That Tim, would you agree that maybe though the advances, like you said, with Huddle or social media, maybe gives the athletes a bigger hand up in getting
100%.
recognized?
100%, 1,000%. It's helped. Just Huddle alone, just a kid can literally go out there and sell themselves with their highlights. Getting their resume. I mean, even Twitter, just your Twitter account, your front page of your Twitter account is the best introduction than just about anything else you can do these days. So yeah. Oh, there's positives. There's no doubt about it. And that's been a big positive for sure. It's completely changed the recruiting landscape in a lot of different ways. So yeah, no, that's for sure. There's no doubt about it. There have been positives to it as well.
Well, I'm sure you've been hitting the road the last few weeks and visiting high schools. You've probably been doing it all summer, I suppose. But
All year,
yeah,
really.
yeah, there you go. So I guess talk a little bit about the upcoming season. What have you seen? What are you looking forward to? I guess we'll start with what teams, if I guess speaking to our listening area, the western side of the state, what teams do they need to know about outside of our area?
Well, you guys know that. I mean, you guys have a better handle on that than I do. You can just laugh at what I tell you, but um, you know, I really hopped on the Quincy bandwagon last year.
Yeah.
You
I'm
know,
driving that bus.
all right, there you go. So I had a chance to see them a bit, and Braden Little, I got to know, and Coach Rich,
Yeah.
Little, and saw them this summer. Was impressed with them skill wise. They can really sling it. Ran into a really good Lamont team in the playoffs last year, and it looks like everything I'm looking at has them projected in 7A this year, which in some ways it's good because they can avoid Lamont, because Lamont and East St. Louis aren't going anywhere in
Yeah.
6. But yeah, Quincy for sure is a team in the area. Moline obviously had a
Yep.
big year last year. I had a chance to see that last game against Sterling.
Yeah.
Sterling doesn't
Yep.
go away. They just get
Yep.
better every year. So, it's so you have obviously the quad city teams, and then obviously Sterling Newman in the small classes as well. I know you wanted some different, say maybe some sleepers in some of the other classes. I mean, I don't know. I look at, from my perspective, I've heard a lot about Altoff in 1A.
Okay.
Transfers that have come in there, that all of a sudden it sounds like the football program maybe is starting to turn around to the positive side again for Altoff. So they're a team to watch, certainly in 1A. And then Hope Academy up in Chicago. And I know everyone goes, oh, okay, yeah, well, they're not going to be any good. They're going to get beat. But
Yeah.
it's first of all, just knowing their story, it's pretty amazing that there's even a football team there some years. It's in a really rough area of the city. But Coach Mallet has done a terrific job there. He's got one of his sons as one of his younger players. It's a pretty good team. So there's some talent. So they could be a team you don't want to run into early.
They've developed a little rivalry with Ottawa Marquette going
Yeah.
back over the years, which has been kind of fun. And that was kind of something that came out of nowhere when Marquette was playing independent. So anyway, yeah, that's a team that's always kind of on my radar in 1A.
Am I mistaken? I see Quincy Notre Dame in 2A.
They could be, man. Yeah. Yeah.
So if
Well,
they
when you
wind up
said
in
when you
2A,
said Altoff down in 1A, it kind of
Yeah.
makes me, turn my head like, what?
Yeah.
So
so projections I see have them in 2A, and if you guys obviously know, if Quincy Notre Dame goes to 2A,
yep.
big move down. And then another one, Marion Central Catholic out of Woodstock. Liam Kerwin, who's their second-year head coach. Scary. I covered him when he was a player, so I'll tell you how old I'm getting. But they're a team to definitely keep an eye out for. There's some good talent there. Their tight end, Christian Betancourt, is going to a little school called Clemson. You guys might have heard of it.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's some talent there. And I mean, 3A again. Our projections look at Montini as possibly a 3A. I think Montini's got a little bit more Montini-like as opposed
Okay.
to in the last few years. Had a chance to see him this summer. Chicago Phillips possibly in 3A, but guys, I don't know. This isn't a Phillips team that I think people got used to. I
Okay.
think they're a little bit down, but we'll see. It's still a name to certainly watch out for. And working your way up. I mean, we could do all 8 classes. I could do whatever.
I think I'm just always interested to hear. I mean, we cover the teams on the western side of the state, but
Yeah.
until the year gets going, I really don't know who to watch for everywhere else. So I'm always interested to hear who you've been seeing. Mitch, you had something, Mitch?
Yeah, Tim, let me ask you, because a team that we've run into in the playoffs a couple times, and certainly always discussion of what class they play in, that recently joined, I think the CCL Blue is IC Catholic.
Yeah.
And it looks like their schedule is just
Have you
gauntlet.
How ridiculous is that schedule?
It's insane.
Yeah.
And are you still seeing them as 3A this year?
Yeah.
Okay, so they might get in at 5 and 4.
No,
Actually,
actually, I'm looking at it now. We've got them at 4.
Okay, yeah, because their multiplier hasn't kicked in, so they'll be one of those border teams again. But
you have that schedule. Look at Wheaton St. Francis, which is in the same conference with them.
Mm-hmm.
Their schedule is ridiculous. So yeah, just the fact, and you guys, we've seen this every year. You get one of those teams that are 5 and 4, but they're not a 5 and 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're,
Yeah.
they're a very scary 5-4, and they could be one of those teams for sure.
It's like East St. Louis coming in at 6-3,
Yeah.
and then no one stands a chance.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're going to be the same. I mean, yeah, I could tell you guys from my end, the week 1 game that's got the most talk and the most buzz easily is East St. Louis and Mount Carmel at Illinois State that first Saturday night. Which,
Yeah.
okay, I'll be there. No shock. But a lot of buzz about that game. Mount Carmel could be as good or even better than they were last year. That's how good the talent is coming back. And East St. Louis is East St. Louis. So again, they're going to be right at the very top. When it comes to national polls, you'll hear those 2 names thrown around quite a bit. Loyola's interesting. New head coach, still have 120 kids on their varsity roster. So
yeah,
same old Loyola in 8A. And that's a name you're going to hear about. Lincoln Way East, again, is another team. And, you know, you hate talking usual suspects, but in more cases than not, you guys know, we're usually talking about usual suspects going into the preseason.
You mean like Lita Winslow? We'll probably be talking about
Right.
that, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even talk 1A anymore. What's the point?
Yeah.
Pick a team for the NUIC and just move on with your life. 1A and 2A. Whoever's in 1A and 2A, that's who I'm picking. And
well, and there's a matchup too, Tim, that we're looking at on our side. I think it's week 5. It's the defending 1A champs and the defending 2A champs.
I did see that.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And that's great. You know, I mean, I wish more schools would get the guts to do that. I really do. And to me, you just don't see it enough. And
well, I think you're seeing it. I think you're seeing it maybe more than you have. One, COVID certainly changed things with scheduling, but now that we see conference realignments and maybe uneven schedules, you know, we get Princeton and Sterling this year. I wish we had that. I wish we had that last year. But you know, we have been seeing that more and more often. So, but to your point, credit to those teams who, and we help on our side too. If we know a team has an opening, we try and promote that to other places. I know Newman, you know, a 1A school or 2A school this year is going to play Rock Island, which they might not have a shot against, but kudos to both teams for putting it on. Kudos to both teams for putting it on the schedule to not have a bye week. So, you know, I do think we've seen that more recently, but like you said, it would be great to see more and more like the Mount Carmels and the East St. Louis's play against each other. So hopefully this starts a trend.
So can we talk 1 through 32 yet or no?
Yeah. Okay. Well, yes, we can get there. But
I have an opinion.
This scheduling talk though did make me want to ask you.
Sure. Go ahead.
What are your thoughts? Mitch and I kind of disagreed over the years. What are your thoughts on district football in Illinois?
Never going to work.
No.
Now, I guess my question would be, do you think you'd like it? You personally?
You know, I'm open to anything. And I remember looking at some of those examples. And it looked like some areas it works. And again, when you're talking versus conferences, if you look at some of those districts looked almost identical. So
yeah,
in some cases they wouldn't be affected. The biggest problem with districts is the city of Chicago, guys. That is the biggest problem because you're going to clump in some of these lower tier Chicago public league schools in with Mount Carmel and St. Rita and everything else. Never happened. That alone would kill it. And then you've got tradition of these conferences. You've got, you know, the West Suburban Conference, which has been together for years, have been very little movement. They all stick together. Tradition, and don't even get it started with the Catholic League and everything else that, you know. Now we can dig a little bit deeper if you want and ask me if I think about public-private. We can get into that. That might change for districts, but that's a whole other.
How much time you got, Tim?
This is it, guys. This is my life. You have young kids. My kids are all grown up.
You're hitting all the talking points that we've had over the past couple years.
I've been doing this for a little while, so
yeah. The public private thing that can't happen, right?
I tell you what. When I saw that the IHSA in their infinite wisdom created a committee to explore it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys saw that. I'm very interested to see what happens because the one thing that we have never seen that put on a member-wide ballot.
Yeah. Yep.
Guys, if it goes to a member-wide ballot, I think it passes.
Yeah, that's what makes me nervous. Yeah, that would make me nervous. And I mean, maybe I'm, biased. Not, bias isn't the right word, but I'm focused on Ottawa Marquette, my alma mater,
Right.
and I look at it and think they are hung out to dry. They have no shot. If it goes to a private only, there's just not enough. They're the smallest. They're the smallest football playing school anyway. Well, one of, I think maybe Madison is smaller by a few, but they're the smallest anyway, let alone private schools. Forget it. They're not even close to being in the mix. So anyway, yeah, that's my own personal argument, but we'd be here all night.
Well, and Sterling Newman falls into the same thing. Such a traditional program, and certainly past couple of years haven't been what they've been. But
right, and you have
and no offense to them, but they wouldn't stand a chance in a format like that.
Right, and you have the same situation to be all across the state. I mean,
yeah.
You guys with Quincy, Notre Dame, and then closest is what, Sacred Heart probably. And then you'd have to pull what, Breeze Mater Dei into that. And I mean, you're just so spread out. And let's face it, I mean, there's a reason why most of them are clumped in the Chicagoland areas, because it's the largest population area. So, but like you said, we can come back and do 4 hours on this.
But let's assume that doesn't happen. Okay. Tim, how would you fix, and I don't know if fix is the word, but seeing teams like Quincy Notre Dame in 2A, seeing teams like IC Catholic in 3A, where they might have an advantage, what would be your idea to fix that?
I mean,
where IC would play maybe up to their level.
Well, again, look at the numbers, look at what you're using already, look at the multiplier, look at the success factor. I mean, look, we're the most taxed state in the union, right? So what's another couple of extra taxes thrown onto our football teams' enrollments? I mean, if that's going to keep people happy and satisfied, then I think it's worth doing. I think the biggest mistake meaning the IHSA and the membership, can make is the split apart from private, because I think then it really changes the sport, and not in a really good way. But
yeah,
we'll come back.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll debate that.
Well, okay. On that note, let's flip to 1 verse 32.
There we go. Now on to the next hot button topic. 1 through 32.
All right, let's go. First of all, the only thing I've heard about 1 through 32 is what I saw out of the Daily Herald back in June. I don't know if you guys saw that or not.
I don't know if I did.
I will dig it up and I will link it, or I'll send you guys a link that you have it. It was out of the Daily Herald. I believe it was John Radke, who's a longtime writer. If it's not, I apologize, but they had something in there, and I will find it. It was an interview with Craig Anderson.
Okay.
And Craig Anderson talked about 1 through 32 and said basically it's been shelved. Why do you think it's been shelved? Gas prices. Okay.
Again.
Again. So my question is, if we can go back and pass as a membership 1 through 32 and then selectively apply it or not apply it, can we go back and get rid of 8 classes and go back to 5 selectively?
Yeah.
So I don't know where it's going. You asked me what coaches I've talked to and what do they think of it. Guys, I don't know if I've talked to a coach that was ever against 1 through 32.
I feel like I read articles when it first came out, and I think a lot of the concern was more in the southern half of the state. And
right.
Yeah. But then again, you turn around and you look at Geneseo played Carterville in the first round of the playoffs. So my argument then was, it's happening anyway. So I know that was maybe an isolated, that was one of the longer trips, but it still happens. So
the way the state is set up, you're never going to avoid that. Yeah. Someone's going to have to make a long bus ride.
Mm-hmm.
My point being, number one, what's so wrong with a long bus ride?
Yeah, exactly.
You are missing such a large part of the educational piece with high school football and the benefits when you take those long bus rides away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are kids in East St. Louis that might not ever know what's outside of East St. Louis. I guarantee you there are kids in the city of Chicago that have never been south of Joliet or never been west of Ottawa or somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You get out, you get to a different part of the state, which a lot of kids could be like a completely different world. You learn to compete and play with and against kids that you never would have seen otherwise. There are so many values to that. And talk to coaches, guys, you talk to them all the time. They'll tell you the same thing. So I'm not against bus rides at all. And I think you're going to have it whether you have 1 through 32 or not. The thing that I hate, and we saw it in the larger classes, and notice, by the way, there's no talk of getting rid of it in 8A and 7A.
Yeah.
Because they like it and it works.
Yeah, exactly.
So what drives me the craziest about 1 through 32, it's not even the travel. It's having to play the same damn team every single year. That has to end.
Well, and we get that. What do we have, Greg? In the 1A North quarterfinals, we had 3 of the 4 teams out of the NUIC. Like that
Absolutely.
should. Right. And now that could probably happen even no matter what your rankings are.
But it can, but let it naturally happen.
Yeah, right.
Force it to happen. Let it naturally happen. If the seeding works out that way, no one can complain.
Yeah.
Because we've seen it happen in 7 and 8A. We've seen 2 conference opponents square off in round 1. What was it? It was Naperville North took on Naperville Central. And you know what? Either side had a complaint or a gripe at all because that's what the seeding played out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's my whole take on it. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. I think they're going to shelve it and they might come back a few years from now and look at it. But for whatever reason, it's on hold.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the point that you hit that I think is most important there is that it was voted on and approved.
Right.
And now we just decide that that's irrelevant, that a vote that passed was now irrelevant. So yeah, how many other things can we just go back and change after? Like,
I mean,
that's
it's
ridiculous.
their ball. It's their ball, and I guess they can take it and go home if they want. But I would just like to know what the mindset and the thought was.
Yeah.
And I know Craig, and again, I'm paraphrasing, and my fault. I should have had it in front of me, but mentioned that he had spoken to different school administrators, and that they were against it. That they saw how the brackets fell this past playoff year and just said, no, that we can't do this. So,
man. Yeah, that's disappointing. I guess I hadn't seen that conversation. So that's disappointing. I was hoping we were turning the corner and getting closer to it, but
I wish.
All right. Let's pivot to 8-man football. You've kind of come to love 8-man football. I heard you talking to Jason Kirby last year on your podcast.
Yeah, and we're going to do more of it too, for sure.
Awesome.
I mean, even I was jonesing in the off season. I just finished 2 seasons of Texas 6 on Paramount Plus.
Okay, there you go.
So I'm totally in. I mean, it's obviously it's different. It's fun. And the thing I love the most, guys, and I'm sure you'll agree, you've got schools that are 80, 90, 100 years old, and you're asking them to co-op and get rid of all their history. They don't have to with this.
Yeah.
And I love that. And you know what? And I know there's 2 sides of this. I've talked to 1A and 2A coaches, and they tell me, they're trying to keep that level of football going, and 8-man is not going to help. But I mean, I think, and guys, here's something else let's throw in. Let's throw in flag football. Now, all of a sudden, we're starting to see a startup of girls flag football. The Chicago Bears and the NFL's gotten behind it. Why not? What the hell?
I've been seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter about it.
You're going to see more. They're getting more involved. I think they're sponsoring more things. I know the IHSA is working with them on stuff now. It's going to continue. And for my book, guys, more football, the better. So if it's 8-man, if it's girls flag, whatever, if kids are playing football in some form or another, I think it's nothing but positive for the sport.
Yeah. Mitch, did you have something?
No, I was just thinking, as we've probably seen with dwindling numbers in football throughout communities, and if that's because of maybe concerns with injuries, certainly, and there's a solution to that. Yeah, I'm all for it.
And I love, and I think that's a big part of it. I think that flag has allowed these communities, because I see it even in the larger school districts, in the 7 and the 8As, you see 7th and 8th grade night, and this is public school as well, where they're getting kids to start playing flag football different times of the year. Why not? It's, it's keeping a foot in and just trying to keep that door open, that maybe when those kids come into high school, you transition them from flag over to tackle. Some of the coaches I've talked to said they've had a lot of success with that so far. Go for it. Why not?
So what's up the next couple weeks, the next month as you prepare for the season? What keeps you busy here?
Nonsense. Just everything. I mean, I'll jam out a bunch of conference previews. I'll do video aspects of it. I'll do written aspects of it. I do my own radio show in 1340 WJOL in Joliet. I have for over 20 years.
Yeah.
That's complete nonsense. So that keeps me busy, and it's a lot of fun. I have a blast doing it. And yeah, just getting ready for the season. A lot of recruiting stuff as well, which keeps me busy. A lot of top list and all the usual fun stuff that you come to expect for the preseason. So yeah, looking forward to it. Like I said, year 29, and someone asked me, when am I going to retire? I said, I'm never going to retire. You see that 50-yard line over there? You're going to find me just drop down there off and start the game back up. That's my plan.
So Tim, as we get closer here, as we mentioned about 30 days, and we talked already about Mount Carmel and St. Louis. Two-parter question here. One, what are a couple games maybe statewide to look forward to that have your attention, and maybe two, who, from a recruit standpoint, from an athlete standpoint, who are some of the better athletes in the state to listen for their names this season?
Wow. Okay.
I know that's a loaded question. I understand that.
No, it's a good question though. If I was half a professional, I would have been prepared for it. But that's to be open. I think from a game standpoint, and again, I'm a week to week guy. So, people are surprised. It's like, I haven't come out and picked the top 10 games for the next 9 weeks. I haven't done that. I picked about 25, 30 games week one that are top. And I do that with my deciding where I go for games too. The nice part about last year was the first season I didn't have any television responsibilities, which means I got the hell out of Chicagoland and went and see some real football outside of Chicagoland, which was fun, which I love doing. That's one of my most favorite things doing. I should have been a truck driver or something because I love getting in the car and just going. And I do that. I put a lot of miles on. Went to Moline, had to go to Moline, still getting grief from the Moline fans because I didn't stop at Whitey's to get ice cream.
Rookie mistake.
Look, now wait a minute. I do Rips Chicken every time I'm heading out there.
Oh, absolutely.
That's number one. So I'm
absolutely.
Number two, I've had Whitey's ice cream before and it's delicious, but it was also like 50 degrees and raining that night. And I didn't exactly have the taste for ice cream. So kill me, okay? But I have a couple of surprise places I'm going to go to this year. One is a historic home field, legendary home field that a lot of people in the state have never been to. I've been there once already, but I'm going to go again. It's been a long time. I'm not telling you where I'm going.
Oh, you're not? That's a tease.
That's
man.
A
you're
tease.
not. Oh my
That's
goodness.
You'll see. You'll see.
All right. Like it.
You'll see. As far as top recruits, I mean, I'm like, my head's swirling. I'm thinking about the class of 2027. Like, who's the top kids? Like, that's how far out it's gotten and far, just crazy all over the place with recruiting. I'm thinking Glenbard South with Cam Williams, who's been committed to Notre Dame for a while. It's crazy. It's like if you're a senior, a lot of these kids have been done recruiting for like a year and a half. It's just that whole process has gotten so much further out. You've got 7th graders and 8th graders getting Power 5 college offers these days. It gets nuttier as the days grow along. But just go to my site in a week and I'll give you a whole damn list of every top kid in the state you want. I've got them. I'm just not going to be rude and put you on pause.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, historically then, best athlete you've covered.
Okay, that's a really good question, and I get it every once in a while. So I answer it in 2 ways. One, from a recruiting aspect, a kid that I saw in high school that was the best athlete I ever saw was Eddie George. coming out of high school.
Yep.
Saw him at a Nike camp in Ohio. Guys, there should not be human beings that big, that strong, that run that fast. It just should not. That should not happen. And he was everything and then some. And he was unbelievably impressive from from a state of Illinois perspective. Still to this day, one of my favorite all-time players to cover and to watch because he was absolutely amazing was Antoine Randall when he was at Thornton.
Yep.
Went on to Indiana, was a Heisman candidate in Indiana, ended up playing in the pros. Was with the Pittsburgh Steelers for a while, and he's actually back coaching. I think he was coaching at Detroit. I don't know if he's still with the Lions or not, but he was unbelievable. And again, for your basketball people, he was part of that Thornton team that just had, they had some phenomenal athletes those couple of years. And Antoine was special. There was a few others, but Antoine was just that unbelievable option quarterback that talk about changing a game with a run or a carry. He was that guy. So
and at the time you didn't see it like you see it today. Like you didn't see a quarterback doing that, all the time. So
and he was a guy that could throw it just as well. So he was truly, Justin Fields 20 years before Justin Fields. Wasn't as big, wasn't as physical. He was smaller, which made everything that he was able to accomplish that much more impressive. So Antoine Randall for sure, one of the guys right at the very top for me.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, hey, you got Matt Lang already working the phones and getting the info for you?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Just point him in a direction and say, come back when you got some information. So we'll have probably within a week or so, we'll get something out early. And
awesome.
But I mean, again, just you guys do tremendous work. I told you before, I've been following it since you guys started up. It's great. It's informative. It's well done. It's professional. So there's a lot of people out there doing stuff, and it's just so much better when it's just the way it's presented, the way you guys produce everything. It's great stuff. So keep doing it.
Good. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I remember, Mitch, I think it's probably been a couple years ago, but I think it was like, we started a podcast and it was like, oh my God, I think Edgy Tim just retweeted our stuff. Like, holy cow. So yeah, no, but I really appreciate you coming on. It's great.
Good though. You know what? And you guys do that too. When you guys see someone out there that is trying to do it, and now if it's a direct competitor or something, okay, I get it. But I mean, I still try to do that. There's a lot of good people out there that have, started their own sites. A lot of the school stuff too. A lot of schools have started up their coverage, their TV, and they do a great job. And hey, man, you know what? I got no problem helping them out and trying to promote them because we've all been there.
Yeah.
So,
great.
All been there.
Well, hey,
it took me 11 years to get a media credential from the IHSA.
Yeah.
11.
Man.
I saved these.
Yeah. There you go.
So when people ask me why I saved these, I say because it took me 11 damn years to get one of these.
Are you looking forward to going back to Illinois State?
Yes, I was a big proponent. And I tell you what, at least the fans that I talk to on a regular basis felt the exact same way, that they remember Hancock and they remember some of those great games and the way it was set up, and it felt big and it sounded big and it played big. And I think that's what people are really looking forward to. Have you guys been down there lately? Because they've done some really, really big improvements, and basically the visitor side is the home side now. They've completely built that up. It's great. They're starting to open their indoor. They just opened a bubble, so they've got an indoor facility where teams can work out. Yeah, I think fans can be real happy with the layout at Illinois State. I think they'll be impressed. So I'm thrilled about it.
So my dad and my brother went to Illinois State, but I bucked the trend and went to Southern Illinois.
Oh,
so
boy. My kids did, and they're out of the will. So
so they are very familiar with Illinois State, and I've been down there for one of the games when they were in the middle of the renovation, and you could tell it was going to be something great. And now that it's here, I think it's a great central location, and I'm excited for that as well. So
it'll be a blast.
Yes, Edgy Tim, thank you so much for being here. To anyone listening, of course, Follow Edgy Tim on Twitter if you're not already. He has great content from high school football across the state. Edgy Tim, edgytim.com, of course, as well. Mitch, what do you got?
Last question for Tim.
Yep.
Bears over under 5 wins this year.
Over.
I think so.
Yeah, I like it. I
Bears.
like it. And I know you're a White Sox fan, but we're not going to get into that on this one. So
Why?
I'm also a suffering White Sox fan, so it's a good thing. It's
there's a connection here.
I
Okay?
know.
We can talk about the first place Reds if you want, but maybe that's for
Hey, you know what though? That's kind of a good story.
That's a fun story. Yeah.
It's
Big Red Machine. Come on.
You've been here for 9 years now. I think if you asked the population if they would rather see a Reds World Series or a Bengals Super Bowl, it would be at best split. The baseball spirit in this town is, oh yeah, absolutely.
I would say Reds World Series myself.
Yeah, the baseball fanatics here are really special. So this season's a lot of fun, and I haven't been down this year, or I might have went to opening day. I think I did. I'm going in a couple of weeks, so it'll be cool to see what the atmosphere is like here, getting down to the final stretch.
Well, when are they going to start making some trades?
I don't know. If anything, they need an arm, but
White Sox, we still got some pieces left.
We still got parts to sell.
Oh, we got all kinds of parts to sell.
That's the interesting part for the Reds, because I don't think they're in a win now type of situation. They're built to last for a couple years, so I would hate them to see them move apart for a rental piece.
We've got
we'll see.
We've got DH first baseman Yang.
Yep.
We got like 4 or 5 of those guys. If you need them, just let us know.
We might be able to sacrifice a bat for one of your arms, but that would be it.
Yeah. I'm just glad it's football season, or almost football season. And
how about it? Oh my God.
And Mitch, when you go to that,
thank you.
When you go to that Reds game, boy, tell me what meaningful baseball feels like, because I don't know anymore. So
yep, I will.
All right. Well,
thanks,
hey, Edgy Tim, we'll keep in touch. Definitely. We'll talk to each other throughout the season. So thank you so much for being here. And if you come to this area, look us up. We'll be around.
I will. Next time it's on my dime, and we'll definitely do this again.
Sounds good.